Hello and welcome to the Justin Hamilton podcast. Of course, my name is Justin Hamilton. You can call me Hammo if you feel that way inclined. On today's episode, we have a special guest. It's an old friend of mine. And when I say an old friend, it was someone that I thought it'd been a while since I'd seen him. And it turns out it was essentially a lifetime. Phoenix Montgomery, a really interesting guy, really interesting performer. He does quite a few different types of things. He's a mentalist, he's a magician, a stage hypnotist, he does corporate keynote facilitating, he's appeared on TV, he's done all sorts of media stuff. He is a kind of a broad entertainer in the true sense of the term. He's worked with some fascinating people. There'll be quite a few artists that he brings up that you will have heard of before, and he's worked with them all over the world. But all of that being said, I had him on specifically to share a story with me that he shared with me over lunch. It was truly fascinating, and it's one of those areas that I've got to be honest with you, I've just been fascinated with it ever since I was a kid. Like this has been a decades long fascination. And here's the thing. We live in a world of conspiracy theories. We live in a world of people who put things online that we can't trust. Like like simple things. Like sometimes it's like a video of a dog and a cat hanging out, and you go, that's AI, you know. So when you can't even trust the simple things, it's harder to trust the bigger things. And Phoenix has had this fascinating experience, not once, but twice. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but have a listen. And yeah, I think you'll find it really interesting. It's the thing that's really interesting to me about it is the way he talks about it is almost mundane. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not sensationalizing it. It is just something that happened to him, and this is how it happened, and this is the story behind it. So, sit back, open your heart, and be prepared to hear a kind of extraordinary story. So, looking forward to you listening to Phoenix about his career and also this experience that happened more than once. Just a couple of things. I had a few people write to me during through the newsletter. Nev Hughes, in particular, made me laugh quite a lot. Yes, bi-weekly means every 2 weeks. And no, I had forgotten the joke on the dollop, but yes, thank you for reminding me. So when I say the newsletter, I mean fortnightly. And if quite a few of you have not realized that. So it's a fortnightly newsletter, which means most months you'll get it twice. Now and again, depending on when the first one comes out, there's 5 weeks in the month, maybe you'll get three, but it'll be every 2 weeks. So fortnightly. I should say fortnightly. It seems to be less confusing. So if you would like to sign up for that, the newsletter will keep you abroad and across things that I'm doing. And also, there'll just be some, little bits and pieces, suggestions of things that you might like to check out, some things that you might like to get into, all sorts of stuff. But yes, fortnightly, that's what's going on with that. If you would like to sign up, head to justinhamilton.com.au and you can find it on the front page. When you put your email in, you'll get a confirmation email. Check your spam because that's where that first one will initially go. Click on that and then you'll be right as rain. Quite a few things coming up. There's a bonus podcast coming up on Patreon pretty soon. So keep your eyes out for that. That will be a Patreon only episode. And on the Substack, I have the next chapter, which I'm working on at the moment, is about the third ever gig. So we've just covered the first ever gig that I did, and the third ever gig was the night that Kurt Cobain died. And I Did not have any Kurt Cobain jokes. I was in a duo. The two of us did not have any gags about that, but some people did, and they did not go well. And I learnt some pretty good lessons that night that have followed me through even to today. So I'm just working on that, and there'll be a couple of other things over at the Substack coming out soon. So yes, keep your eyes and ears peeled for that as well. And yeah. I'll pop by at the end of the podcast and update you with a couple of other things. But yeah, the newsletter was the main one. Good work, Nev. Thank you for shining a light on the fact that I should be saying fortnightly. It's just a lot easier to get your head around, especially if you're doing other things while you're listening to me or watching the video or whatever. There you go. All right, let's bring in my guest, Phoenix Montgomery, and then I will see you at the end of this podcast. It was interesting catching up with you for the first time in how long was it actually? I can't. I was trying to remember when you said when we first caught up, and then this recent time.
I'm pretty sure it was 23 years.
Yeah, that's wild.
It is wild.
Like that is that's
Yeah.
insane to me. It
Yeah.
because I thought it had been a little bit of a gap, but I think I said to you, I thought maybe it'd been like 10, 11 years. Then when you said 23, I was like, oh my Lord, that is a lifetime for some people.
Yeah.
That's some people's they've come in, had a career and left and started something else,
Exactly.
much more
Yeah, it
lucrative
has been a
too.
career. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really fascinating catching up with you because you've had such a myriad and diverse career since I last saw you. And it's funny, like you sent me through an email of things that we can talk about, and it's funny because you're looking and you're going, well, you do heaps. I don't even quite know where to really kick off with you in that sense.
Yeah.
It's I guess
Yeah.
the thing that stood out for me is mentalism, and I think that might be something that if you haven't experienced it, I think people in the general public might not be absolutely 100% across what you actually do with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky one to convey as well when a client calls or they're like,
Yeah,
okay, what do you do in the show? I mean, how do you describe that? So I
yeah,
mean, that's why I'll try and use video clips or little pieces that I've done over time because it's pretty hard to convey.
yeah.
But it's obviously there's no psychic ability, there's intuitive abilities and there's skills that you pick up along the way, but it's kind of this sort of sliding scale. So you've got mental magicians on this end, which is a lot of today. There's a lot of magic illusion designed to look like proper mentalism. I say proper. And on the other end, you've got more of the purist side of thing, which is more the psychological skills. A lot of
Mm.
people aren't spending the time to kind of learn those sorts of skills, like things like hypnosis and or advanced memory and things like that. But yeah, it's a sliding scale. Every mentalist sort of sits somewhere in between there, and mentalism essentially, I say it's like an umbrella term. It's the head that's the head of the octopus, and the legs would be body language reading and profiling and memory, speed, math, magic, and illusion as well. Because I mean, that's the thing. How are you competing with all these mental magic tricks with just psychological stunts? It's pretty hard. So you kind of blend that, and the idea in those shows is, in my opinion, to blur the line of like what's possible and what's not so that people just have fun.
Right, yes. And how did you enter this world? Like, what was the was there someone that you met? Was there something that you experienced? Was it something that was innate? And because sometimes someone will point out to you, "Hey, do you know you do this?" And you go, "Oh, okay, no, I had no idea. I just kind of did it."
Yeah. Yeah, kind of in a way, but it's also, it didn't start out heading, or at least with any remote knowledge that I'd be looking at that. There were sort of two things in my very early youth that kind of shaped the path of what I do now. And one of those was mum and dad lost everything to fraud when I was really young. And dad used to have a lot of meetings at home after that, people coming and that yeah, every weekend basically. So I'd sit with this. He had this one book on his bookshelf, which was a book on body language, and I'd sort of just sit. Well, actually, he didn't have one book on his bookshelf. He had a whole bookshelf worth of books, but the
Right.
one had images in that I, as a kid, was able to really get into and sit and watch people because we couldn't afford Nintendos and Xboxes in those
Yeah.
days after what they went through. And that
Yeah.
was really fascinating to me. And it sort of just became a bit of who I was, and I didn't realize how much I'd absorbed or that it would ever come in handy
Right.
later on. And this is all around the age of like 8
Yeah.
onwards,
Yeah.
and maybe 10 for that. But yeah, just from there, I just was always an active kid. Got into sport, particularly martial arts and dance, when I was in early teens, and just did them throughout my teen years. And then I was working in a one of those comedy theatre restaurants years ago. Remember they used to have those? They were really
Oh,
prevalent
yeah.
around in a time where entertainment was everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was just sort of bar staff, floor staff, but I got along really well with the comics there, who I've since worked with, funnily enough, and just
Right.
loved comedy, and loved entertainment in general. Um, Dated a girl that was in the cast there. She was offered a cruise ship gig, and I was looking for extra money around town. I did some like Latin dance shows because that was what was in the paper, and I didn't know what other entertainment to do. And they trained me up on how to do that properly. And her agent came along and said, if you want to go on a contract with her, see if you can get down to Sydney Dance Company and do a few months there. And if you're good enough when we audition, then you can go with us. So I did that. And next thing I was on a cruise, this is the condensed version. I was on a
Mm.
cruise ship around Asia, and there was a magician from Vegas there. Now he's the one that recognized the whole profiling, body language reading, and suggested that I look into what's known as mentalism because it does utilize those sorts of skills. And then from that on, it was just I fell in love with that. I fell in love with like escapes, like water tank escapes, and later on, the final piece of that would have been probably hypnosis, which
Right.
I do love. And it's just been sort of never set out to be doing this, but it's just been one thing after the other. It was actually, I would have met you before I was doing the hypnosis part. I
Yeah.
had the other parts in place, but I met you, yeah, where I was just trying to sort of get my skills up and be able to walk on stage and do, you just use comedy and just use your
Yeah.
personality or your mind without any props or without any sort of other production of
Mm.
sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, let's just go through that whole crazy sentence that you said, where you were reading a book and then you got into dance and martial arts, and then you were working at a theater, comedy theater dinner, and you start dating a girl who teaches, and then you learn how to teach Latin dancing on a cruise, and you meet a magician and who points out you could be a mentalist. Like that is a wild sentence.
It
Like that,
is.
but I think it's really fascinating. Like it's not. It implies to me that from a very young age, you're inquisitive and open, and so therefore, when things were presented to you,
Yeah.
you were able to. Seems like you were able to leap into them without any sort of second guessing.
Yes, yes. Well, as I said, there was another thing that occurred when I was very young that did cause my mind to be open. But also, being a mentalist, you do, if you are doing it the proper way and you're looking at lots of micro expression reading and things like that, you get good at deception detection too. So once this occurrence happened when I was young, I spent a lot of time kind of fascinated by realms that should be ridiculous, but also investigating them to the point where you can read deception on people. So you've got a much better tool for sifting through the bullshit that's around and also
Mm.
seeing what else is out there. But also I just love doing those things. And I struggle to focus on things, as I'm sure many people do, if I'm not interested in them. So
Oh,
it's
yeah. And it gets harder as you get older.
oh man, it does. It does. And I've learned memory techniques to absorb the information, but
Mm.
still getting me to sit down for long enough to focus on it in the first place is the hard part. I
That's
don't know what you're
definitely the
like with
hard
that.
part. Oh, yeah. And also, one of the things that I find a significant hurdle in modern times, especially I've even noticed it in the first few weeks of this year, is if I'm emotionally exhausted with something, I find it really difficult to engage.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
exhaustion could be everything from big things like the constant barrage of information about any pick any war that's going on at the
Yeah.
moment
Yeah.
to just the diatribes behind a little bit of popular culture and
Yeah.
these fierce sides that have POVs that also at the same time don't really seem to have a sense of let's find some common ground so we can discuss this without having to speak in all capitals. So so yeah, that's the kind of thing that can really make me disengage quite quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, any kind of being drained and tiredness, like you've got everything going on in the world, even just sleep. If you're not getting adequate sleep,
Oh, yeah. It's one of the crazy things that even now people don't realize the importance of sleep. And
yeah.
like I've got a really close friend of mine who is just running themselves ragged, and every time I see them, I'm kind of begging them just get an extra couple of hours of sleep, and also sometimes uh you're achieving heaps, like you're doing heaps every day.
Mm,
uh, I think you've forgotten that it's really important to some days just have fuck all on,
yeah.
and that's sleep and daydreaming and having those kind of quiet moments. If you can meditate, they're moments where the brain gets an opportunity to churn through all this shit and
Yeah.
defrag yourself and coalesce ideas into something that's more useful moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Meditation, I've really taken on board. I used to do it. I mentioned the Chinese martial arts that I was doing for years
Mm,
growing up, but these days I seem to do it a lot more. And it's so, I don't know, I think it's so important if you're a creative as well, because it sort of gives you that space where everything else is sort of locked out for a moment and you can explore that. You can see what's there in your subconscious and
mm,
lack of it, some call it downloads or whatever else. But by downloads, I mean like whatever's going to come to you, whether it's
yeah,
creativity or reflection or
yeah,
accountability or anything like that. But yeah, meditation is such a big part for me
yeah,
now, more than it
yeah.
ever has been. How
It's
often do you do it?
I don't really. I wouldn't. I'd feel like I was lying if I say that I meditate, but I do. Uh, Especially, this is why I always prefer to work at home. I do in the middle of working. Will take a moment where I'll go and lay on the lounge, or just even sit on the lounge for 5 or 10 minutes without anything on,
Yeah,
and I'm just happy to kind of hear the traffic going by, or if it's been quite warm, you can hear the mild hum of the fan, and just kind of let the head drift. And sometimes I'll sort of aim. I might have a little 15-minute break, but
mm,
it's quite amazing. Sometimes you can go deep into whatever you've been thinking about, and then you
yeah.
come out of it and you go, oh God, I feel refreshed. I better get back to it. And then you check your phone and it's been 3 minutes.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
It's kind of like the power nap of
yeah,
mind relaxation. Yeah,
yeah. But you can go deep quickly. And
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be that amount of time.
yeah,
And it's always fascinating how at some point your brain will say, hey, that thing you've been working on, you've had a little problem. Do you remember that thing we thought about 3 months ago? Have you thought about applying that? And you go, no, no, I haven't. Thanks, brain. You really helped me out.
My brain seems to get me at times where it's hard to write things down, which is either long drives or in the shower.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
to counter that, I ended up getting this waterproof pattern pencil for the shower because I kept getting all these sort of
Yeah,
ideas and things that I have to remember. So I'm in the shower scribbling them down and
mate, it's so much
yeah.
better than doing a mad dash and like tearing every hamstring in your body, just to get that one
Or writing it
idea
in the
down.
steam.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't open the door. I've got to keep this here. So with body language and reading people,
Mm,
I don't want to give away any tricks of your game, but are there specific things that people all do that they all have in common that
yeah. Yeah.
give away
Yeah,
where they're at?
there's so many. The differences realistically and micro expression wise, there's not. And that's been tested with tribes that haven't been contacted ever before, and they still share the same expressions and micro expressions. The only nuances that you find different are gestures, which are, places like Japan giving a thumbs up doesn't mean the same as it does around the
Oh
rest of the
yeah.
world. Or yeah, yeah, or just little things like that. But typically expression wise and things that aren't really as controlled, yeah, that's universal. which is
Mm.
very helpful. But
Yeah.
also, like I say, there's the element of there's a lot of it that's real, and this is talking from a performance point of view, and there's also psychological illusion and prompting. So I could prompt someone into a situation where I know that I'm going to get a visual response from them.
Mm.
But yeah, but it's good because you end up doing keynotes with companies, which is just another line of work that I like doing, and I don't have to
Yeah.
stress about all the weight of will this prediction or will that setup work. It's just talking to people and training them in body language. It's amazing how easy it is to comprehend. With that sort of background in martial arts, I found earlier on that it's very resistant, or sorry, aligned with primitive sorts of defense mechanisms. So
Mm.
if you look at body language, anything where people are vulnerable is where they're covering like hands over their groin or kind of
Yeah.
crossing over in front of their vitals or their
Yeah.
throat. And once you think of it like defense mechanisms and things like that, then it's a lot easier just to understand.
Oh,
That's the
yeah.
basics, but yeah.
Yeah, you can tell when you walk on stage, and as you walk on, and you see invariably it's a guy will cross his arms, and you
Yes.
go, okay, well, this is, and I'll point it out to try and,
Me
funnily enough,
too.
to relax them. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's like a moth to a flame. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Because
Yeah.
invariably, 99% of the time, it's a subconscious move. So
Yeah,
you
and
know,
it's a protection mechanism too, isn't it? So
yeah.
it's a perceived threat on some level, and the level
Mm.
is, it's our career, it's what we like doing. But yeah, I go straight for that person as well. I can't help myself, and we just automatically have that. You know what it's like, especially in the first years of performing, where you can have 99.9% of the room looking amazed and happy and excited, but if there's one person that
Yeah.
doesn't tend to focus on them,
Yeah.
which you can't do, you've got to, as you're well aware, but yeah,
Yeah, but you
focus on the
do.
other. Yeah.
You do focus on that person, it's a disaster. I've had that person where you focus on them for so long and you think, God, that was an hour and they did not enjoy the show. And then afterwards, they're the person who's waiting for you that says, I loved it. And
Yep.
you have to be really polite, but in your head, you want to say, well, you need to work on your face because you were
Absolutely.
freaking me out that whole time. Uh,
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
are there people that are difficult to read? And if so, do they share common traits as well?
Yeah, some are more difficult than others, but again, it's sort of a matter of then disarming that,
Yeah.
whatever shield that they've sort of put up and around themselves, then you would disarm it somehow, whether it's calling it out, as you mentioned with the arms crossed, or even just something as simple as giving them something to hold momentarily will
Oh,
break
yeah.
their whole posture in there. Like your body reflects, again, this is probably none of it's new to you, but your body reflects what your mind's thinking, but you can also
Mm.
make it work the other way around. So, if you're standing like that, a lot of people will say, oh, I'm just cold. And sure, if there's one gesture, but if there's three gestures are being closed off, then you're
Yeah.
like, well, or a lot of them will say, no, I've just got my arms crossed because it's comfortable. Well, the reason
Mm.
is comfortable is because your mind's protecting, and that's why
Mm.
that's comforting. Also, this is a comforting position. So, yeah,
Yeah.
but you also do get those people like you mentioned about them being the difficult ones. I get those these ones where I'm trying to read them and it just sounds like it's been a complete miss. And then they'll come up after the show and be like, you know what? You were right. My sister did have this when we were kids. And it's just, oh, thank you. If
Yeah.
you could go around and tell the other 2,000 people that were in the audience that'd be great.
Yeah. 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 I was on top of it. That's why it's always good to get people's everyone's emails so you can just by the way, Jane at the front, I was on top of it. It's a fascinating skill to have, and the thing that I was wondering about is we have higher rates of people on different types of spectrums, and so uh, does that mean you have to add another approach to how you do this because their reactions are different to what people have had in the past?
Well, you're picking up on patterns as well. So you pick up on that pretty quick. Anything from like a Tourette's sort of twitch can be observed, and once you see that, then you know not to even consider that. But
Hmm.
the ones that would be and are the most difficult, if not impossible, are the compulsive liars because they believe what they're saying.
Oh
So
yeah,
if you're
right.
asking them one person to hold something out of five, that's very different to someone trying to convince you and then believing what they're convincing you of in general day-to-day story.
Right, yeah.
But yeah.
The
Yeah,
compulsive liar.
compulsive liar. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's like it's an actor really believing in their role, isn't it?
Yeah, 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 yeah. It really is. So it makes it very difficult.
Yeah.
But you don't really they don't really bother you on stage though, because they don't believe that they're not holding something. That's why you'd use a prop.
Yeah,
So
of course.
it's
Right.
also you can prove it too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Where has so you have the mentalism side of things. Does it says that you've worked in the world of magic as well, but
Mm.
is that like how does that work with the mentalism?
Yeah, it's look, years ago they would have really been classed as the same thing. And then
Yeah.
there was sort of a divide when you've just got your sort of prop illusionists and magicians that are manipulating. And then you've got mentalists and, as I say, the purists who would use prop free or just yeah, memory or any of those areas that just involve the mind. And
Yeah.
then that became quite different. So you've got guys with huge props and cutting women in half. And
Mm,
for me, where that overlapped was like I always liked comedy magic. And back in the day when I met you, I don't think you ever saw any of the comedy magic. I know Will did at one point, but
mm,
you saw, I think you just saw the stand up. And yeah, like doing one without the other. So that was as far as I really went with magic. Oh, that's not true. I did some card work, which was where the X-Men thing came along,
hmm.
and I got to consult for that movie on card work, but I wasn't really a super duper
You
card
should
magician.
you should share that with everyone. Like you can't say that's where the X-Men thing came along and blah
Yeah,
blah blah blah
yeah,
blah 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 blah. So how did that all
yes.
come about?
So it was a stupid decision of mine. I got contacted years ago when I was doing a lot of magic, and you sort of put everything under the banner of magic back then because no
Mhm.
one knew what a mentalist was
Yeah.
really. I mean, in the UK, a mentalist is a crazy person, so that's not what you go around advertising yourself as.
Well, I was wondering if the American TV show helped
It did.
popularize
It did
the term.
very
Yeah,
much.
because that
Yeah.
because that when it first came out, it was like Simon Baker's playing a crazy person, and then you watched it and you went, "This is not how I've ever used that word." Sometimes you just need something like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. No, it made a huge help. That and Darren Brown's work, he became very popular. But yeah, the
Yeah.
TV show was very helpful there. And gosh, talking about memory, and I've actually lost where we
Oh yeah. So we were talking about
Oh, that's X-Men.
yeah.
X-Men. Sorry. Yes. And so I had a lot of my work under the title of magician, and because I was doing a water tank escape a lot back then, that still qualifies as escape slash illusion.
Mm,
And I got contacted from Wolverine Productions, it was, and they asked me if I'd meet and train this celebrity, one of the main cast members for one of the X-Men movies in card work. And initially, I was like, well, I don't really want to share the secrets of magic with some Hollywood person, which is a stupid response. Like,
mm.
I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was being overly
You were
cautious
you
with.
were you were young and true to the art.
Protecting the code.
And then you get older and you go, what am I doing? Calm down, mate. Just
$20 in a
do it.
Mars bar, know anything you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I turned that down, and then about a week later, they called again because I said maybe just go to the casino, like try this magician, go to the casino, find a croupier, and they came back a week later and said, look, um, we went to the croupier. There's nothing that the actor can't already do that they do. Would you just consider meeting with him and seeing what you think?
Mm,
So I said, yeah, all right. Well, they reassured me as well. They didn't really care about any tricks or how to do things. It was more about flourishes,
mm.
flipping one card over to here
Yeah.
repeatedly. And so I said, yeah, I'll go down and meet with the guy. And we ended up hitting it off and
Uh,
becoming good mates
Who's
throughout the
that?
whole
That's
thing.
Taylor Kitsch, isn't it?
Taylor Kitsch, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he was Gambit in the
Yeah.
movie. And yeah, we're kind of still occasional messages today. And years later, he took me over to perform in Austin, Texas for a charity event, but that's another story. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how the X-Men thing went. And I just thought, how stupid to have turned that down initially, and how lucky am I to have been
Mm.
given a second chance of that.
Mate, like you obviously weren't a fan of Friday Night Lights, the TV series.
Ah, you're
He
familiar with
was,
it.
mate,
Tim
familiar
Riggins.
with it. Gee whiz, like, if you've got father issues, Coach is the man that you wished that you'd had as a dad. And Riggins is, one of the great
Wow.
TV characters. Yeah, all over
Ye-
Friday Night Lights, and he's great in it as well. And
Yeah, yeah. He's had some awesome gigs of late too. I don't know if you if it's your thing or not, but he's had one called, was it Dark? It was a follow-on, Terminal List, Dark
Oh
Earth, I
yeah,
think it
yeah,
was,
yeah,
which was
yeah.
awesome. So he had a run, weird, like a sort of bad luck run with some movies for a while there,
He
including
chose
that
he
X-Men movie.
he chose movies that were uh smart moves on paper. And do you
Right.
know what I mean? Like, John Carter. I always think the failure of John Carter was that, and I have to admit, someone made a fan version of a trailer for it, and it was perfect because when people saw John Carter, they went, "This feels like heaps of movies I've seen before," but
Mm.
people don't realize that the source material was the inspiration for the all the things that people had seen. Like, John Carter
Right.
was an influence on Star Wars and things like that.
Is
So
that
someone,
right?
yeah, so someone had made
Wow.
a fan trailer that kind of it was essentially in describing it, I'll reduce it, but it was so smart. This was you could have imagined this as a first trailer of, you love Star Wars and you love this and you love that, but it's showing as you're hearing that, it was showing all these vintage old covers to the John Carter novels. And so then when it then went into the footage of the movie, you suddenly go, this is one of the granddaddies of the things that I love. And I think uh, I thought he was quite good in that. I just think they didn't,
Yeah.
as lots of films do, they succeed or or fail on the way they're marketed and not
Yeah.
being placed in a context that makes sense.
Yeah, I liked it too. I really thought it was quite cool and didn't think it received as much as it. And then I thought, am I looking through the lenses,
Yeah,
someone who might have a bias because it's a friend? But no, I genuinely thought it was a cool, fun movie. If you were a kid, it would have been awesome. But
yeah,
I didn't know that. Interesting. I
yeah.
thought Dune was the sort of precursor to Star Wars, but I didn't realize
Yeah,
these
yeah,
things came as well.
it's,
Wow.
like there's DNA in all of these things.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, that was one of the big things. So yeah, it's just like explain to people, how you love this. Well, it comes from this,
Yeah, that's cool. Well,
Sometimes
there you go.
knowing the lineage can help you work out where to go. But
Yeah.
anyway, but that's pretty cool that you got to do that. You've traveled and supported some pretty big names, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been fortunate. Like really, really fortunate. Yeah, there's been plenty with any of us in this industry. There's always disappointment. I don't know. Maybe I think I've just been too stubborn, and that's just to give up, or you just keep going for whatever reason. But yeah, no, I've
Mate,
had
what
some.
what what else are you going to do?
Yeah,
That's my theory. It's like, well, I've come this far.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm not going to turn into an Olympic diver at this stage, am
Yeah,
I?
exactly. But of course, you meet some people and they're disappointing, but who have been the people that you've really clicked with and enjoyed performing with the most?
Well, Taylor was one of them. Who's just a really good down to earth guy. Rob Thomas,
Yeah,
Matchbox 20, he's another, just a good person.
yeah,
Like uh, I've seen, as you would have, you see plenty of people and you think, wow, it baffles me how some celebrities behave, or
mm,
and then you see others that are just salt of the earth people, and they're just kind and they want to lift people up.
yeah.
You're one of those people. You were very kind to me when I started. Rob Thomas, another one. Just
Oh yeah, you
we
can't you
sort of
can't put me and Rob Thomas in the same sentence. I'm 1% of Rob. I'm diet Rob Thomas. One calorie. How did you meet Rob?
Well, this was a flow on. So because again of that decision to do the X-Men movie with Kitch, it was a couple of years later, and I was at home here in Sydney. I got an email come in saying, a couple of questions for you. Are you booked already on New Year's Eve? If not, do you want to come do a charity event in Austin? I'll be hosting, and you'll be performing alongside Rob Thomas. I was like, let me check my calendar.
And you
Okay,
responded
and all,
immediately. I don't want Rob Thomas to know my secrets. And then he came back a week
yeah.
later.
Oh no, thankfully I'd learnt my lesson by that stage.
Yeah.
And yeah, went over to do this event, which was a very cool. It was on a New Year's Eve, a year or 2 years, I think the year before COVID.
Mm.
And
And what were you
yeah,
doing at that?
I was doing mentalism.
Yep.
So yeah, Rob was obviously doing what he does. Kitch was hosting it. It was a gala raiser for an African children's choir.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was just a great night. We ended up meeting sort of at Kitch's house beforehand, where there were a couple of us there, had a few mates around as well. And then we all went and did the show. The guy's just so kind, and also just make sure that like wherever I was or any performer was in the room, made sure they weren't left out or singled out, and would go and like it's just the kind of person that he is.
Mm.
And yeah, we're all back there after the actual event and show. And he comes up and he was chatting away, and he's like, "Yeah, you're a good guy. I'd like to stay in touch with you." I was like, "Yeah, cool." He's like, "Give me your number." So, all right, no worries. So I give him my number, and he gets his your phone. And you think, "Yeah, cool." And I said, "Look, there's plenty of people here that want to catch up with the old chat to you as we make our way around." So I'm walking away, and my phone starts ringing, and he's
Mm.
like, "So I thought this is a good person."
Nice.
Yeah, that was it was just such a fun way to go into a new year. We ended up just sitting around chatting until all hours in the morning. And that there's a crazy story with that as well. I don't know if I think I might have mentioned it to you when we caught up, but coming back to where we were, that was how we met. And then when he came out to Australia a year later, he's true to his word and sent me a message. Hey, do you want to open at the ICC tonight?
Yeah.
So,
Great.
okay, a little more time's good, but okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So we just sort of stayed in contact with that, and he's very much an animal welfare advocate, which is something that I really believe in as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, just always checks in, always happy to see you, always happy to hear from you. Even does a cameo in one of my shows. Like
Yeah.
it's really just a kind person. So those two will be amongst the nicest or the kindest ones.
Mm.
And yeah, I don't know. I remember all the people that have been kind along the way, and I mean, you would be exactly the same. I treat the people I'm working with on stage as though
Yeah.
everyone's the same importance.
It seems to be a skill that is unfortunately getting rarer and rarer. And it was interesting. There was a at one of these award ceremonies, who knows which one, because there's so many of them. But it was interesting to see George Clooney recently stand up and talk about we live in cruel times. And he was essentially, without naming him, kind of calling out Quentin Tarantino's comments on actors like Paul Dano and Matthew Lillard and
Okay.
Owen Wilson, and how we should be standing by each other and we should be supporting each other, and kindness is not a weakness. It's actually a
Mm,
strength. It's a strength of character that you are able
mm.
to exhibit that,
Yeah.
because you know uh, cruelty and machismo is it comes from something that is ugly and unwarranted. This is a little
Yeah.
side story for you today. I had to go and get some blood taken just a standard test, nothing important. And while we were waiting, a woman came in and she was jumping the queue and she knocked on the door of the room where you get the blood taken, and she turned around to the people sitting there and said, "I'm so sorry, I got called in and my baby's in the car and I have to get in and because I have to leave immediately." And who gives a shit? Yeah, get in there. Like even if I was running a bit late, it's a mum. But one guy
Yeah.
there just got really annoyed and really arced up, and then she went in, and when she came out, he arced up again. And then he went in, and then I could hear the nurse sort of saying, "Hey, look, I invited her in, so I'm here by myself, blah blah blah." And then eventually this guy came out, and I don't know what he was sitting there waiting to do next. But then the woman's husband came in. And then he sort of said, "Hey, you've really offended my wife. I want you to come out and say something." And I'm sitting there, and one's standing and talking to the one sitting, and it's happening around me. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't have coverage on my phone, and I was literally using that as an opportunity to delete unnecessary photos in my smartphone. So I'm just like, click, click, click. And then eventually I was like, guys, it's not even 9 a.m.
Oh, good on
Just
you.
take it
Good on
outside. Take it outside.
you.
Nothing's going to happen here. This guy was a dick, and you coming in and saying you could apologize to my wife is not going to achieve anything, because quite clearly someone who's a dick to your wife isn't going to apologize. So you're just making
Yeah.
yourself angry. Just drive off, say some heinous shit about this guy and make each other laugh, you know?
Yeah, calm down, Will Smith. Yeah. Oh no, can you draw some blood? Yeah. Wow.
It was just it was just one of those funny things where you're just like, oh my Lord, this is way too early for me to deal with any of this. So yeah, no, it's nice to know that you've had some good experiences with some pretty high profile people. Do you find that the higher the profile, invariably the nicer they are, and it's the next step down that they
Yes.
can be the bigger assholes?
Yes. Yes.
Not always,
What?
but as a
Yeah.
more often
Yeah.
than not, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it an insecurity thing? Is it an arrogance thing? I don't know. Is it believing your own publicity thing?
I
I
think
don't.
it's different with each individual, isn't it?
Yeah,
Maturity,
definitely. Yeah.
like maybe you're a bit younger and you go, yeah, I am the shit. And then you get a bit older and you go, oh my God, why was I carrying on like that? So hopefully it's
That's
something a
true.
little bit
Transitional
like that.
stages of life. There've been a couple who are big names, but yeah, if I'm looking at the music scene,
Mm,
like they've done incredibly well, but they're not like that level.
yeah.
The most played songs on radio and Royal Caribbean's playlist. So
Mm,
they're not
yeah.
quite
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is uh people sometimes flip out on whatever level of fame they can receive. Like
Mm,
uh, someone like George Clooney, quite clearly built for his level of fame. Johnny
mm,
Depp, I've always thought the worst thing that happened to him was Pirates of the Caribbean, because he went from being an indie darling to making mainstream movies. And I think, watching from afar, it sent him kind of loopy. But
yeah, right.
I've seen people who host the lunchtime radio show in their small town and they can't cope with that fame and they go crazy. So I think everyone has a level, and if it goes one step too high, they're in
Yeah,
trouble.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's well, I mean, that's the other good thing about if you can manage to have a normie job in
Mm.
this sort of entertainment industry, that can be really good for keeping you level-headed as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that I've always worked behind the scenes as well as in front, and it's because you get a balance, and it really comes in handy, to be honest. Really comes
Mm.
in handy, especially when you know end up you're able to diffuse situations because you can speak to everyone on the same uh, playing field, because
Yeah.
you can talk to someone who's behind the scenes who doesn't understand uh, the pros and cons of performing, but
Mm.
you can also speak to the performer and and find a way to get them to level out because they've been in the trenches with you on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got to, while we're on this sort of thing and mindsets with performing, I've got to ask you, how are you affected badly by procrastination, or is it certain times when that's worse than others? Or because you churn out a lot of work, like you're pretty
Hmm.
focused. What's your take on, like, how do you deal with that, or does it affect you often? You just don't
Hmm.
let it because you can't, or
Yeah. Probably blind panic. No, I reckon it's yeah, I think procrastination hits all of us.
mm,
Sometimes sometimes I can be churning along on something and then I procrastinate on something else. So
yeah,
the thing that I find uh tricky is to find the balance. Like there's like I'm as an example, there's some people that I've meant to have called in the last week and a half to set up some meetings, but I've
yeah.
been in a real writing mode. And
Okay.
then on top of that, I've been working on another project with someone that has taken a bit of focus, and then relaunching this podcast for the season, where every time I come to a new season, I like to freshen it up and just change it up a little bit. So all
Yeah,
of those things have taken my focus. And they're the things that I'm really enjoying doing at the moment.
okay.
And those other things, that's where the procrastination
Yeah,
is hitting. And now I find for the most part, procrastination is, for me, usually some type of exhaustion, whether it's
yeah,
physically
yes.
tired
Mm,
or
mhm.
just mentally a bit wiped out. So I
Yeah.
think that's so if I'm
Yeah.
procrastinating, sometimes the way I get around it is to actually stop, which seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? But rather than
Mm.
keep getting frustrated that I'm not getting onto something, just stop
Mm.
and not do anything.
Like
And
having too
then,
many tabs open and then just restarting the whole browser.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
interesting.
that's worked for me anyway. And then sometimes it's you know, like it kind of freaks you out because you can go quite a few days of just not doing anything.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like uh as soon as I'm ready to go, this will sound weird, but as soon as I'm thinking, right, I've got to get to it, I then wait another 24 hours
Mm.
and
Okay.
and really kind of almost build up the momentum. So then once I start,
Yeah.
then I'm like, and then I'm good to
Yeah,
go.
that's an interesting That's a very good answer, actually. So you're sort of not allowing yourself to start and you're building up a bit of a desire to, like your
Yeah, and
keenness.
yeah,
Very cool.
the gut instinct is why you're procrastinating. And as I
Mm.
said, invariably, I'm just tired in
Yeah.
some way. And
Yeah.
so, just stop, mate. It's gonna be okay, you know.
Yeah. The draining thing that is very real. I guess if you're emotionally or mentally drained, then the procrastination is going to be different. Whereas if it's you can sort of sometimes weaponize procrastination in terms
Mm.
of okay, I'm procrastinating on this one, but I'm getting this other thing done in the meantime. So
Mm. Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah,
yeah, big believer in the dishes. The dishes are a really handy thing to procrastinate over because and doing them by hand, cleaning, drying, and but there's also an endpoint to it.
yes,
So
yeah.
well, I have to do this anyway, so that's good. Sometimes the interesting thing is there have been moments of pure procrastination which have manifested physically in almost a level of mania, and each time it has played out the same way. So uh, a few years ago, back a while ago now, I put together these three plays, and it was going to have two actors in it doing, and the three of us would do all three roles in the three plays, and they were 1 hour plays, and they would kind of tell one story, but they kind of all matched up as well. And then, due to reasons, both actors pulled out about 6 weeks before I was meant to open in Adelaide. So what I did was I rewrote all three shows into one-person plays. I flew to Melbourne and worked with an audio producer and another friend. We recorded something like 230 audio cues. And then I returned to Sydney to prep for it. And then I just couldn't prep. I just could not bring myself to be memorizing the scripts, and
Mm.
I just couldn't do it.
It's a bit of
And
burnout.
yeah, and then
Mm.
the way it manifested was this one afternoon, I had this pure moment of mania when I look back on it, where I just collected a whole lot of books, CDs, graphic novels, cutlery, plates, clothes, all sorts of shit. And over the course of about 3 or 4 hours, I made 6 or 7 trips down to Goodwill, and I took a whole lot of shit. And once I'd done all of that and rearranged my room, I suddenly sat down and went, well, I better get to it. And then I was fine.
Interesting you say that because that's sort of what I end up often procrastinating with. If I've got to sit down, particularly in this day and age where you've got to do content, I'm not a fan of filming content or that sort of thing. But if I've got a project that I'm working on or a show, something like that, I need my space clean. So
Mm.
my
Yeah.
space then is my whole home, and I'll
Yeah.
spend 90% of the day cleaning and getting all that ready and sit down for 10 minutes to actually do what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm exactly the same. It just takes the load off your shoulders so you can focus, I guess. But no, I'm
Y-
much the
y-
same.
Yeah. It's almost like a physical representation of clearing out the head to
Yeah, yeah,
get to
yeah, very
work.
much so.
Um, and on the one hand, it feels good, to be honest.
Mm.
But I I tried to limit those moments and try to change it just to doing a good clean of the apartment because there's nothing worse than 6, 7 months down the track where you think, oh, I might listen to that CD. Oh, I gave it to Goodwill.
Happens all the time.
All the time. Where is that book? Where did I put? Oh, yeah, I gave it to Goodwill. God damn.
Yep,
Anyway, um,
absolutely.
so I was also looking at some of the stuff that you do have online, and one of the things that I found, and we talked a little bit about this, but you sent me a talk that you gave, and then also it was almost like a filmed podcast, wasn't it, with your mum?
Yeah, yeah.
About an experience that you had, which is one of those experiences that immediately caught my imagination because it's one of those things that
Mm.
I've been, you know, obsessed with since I was a kid, and has never really gone away. It's so funny that even now, when lots of things get talked about online, this is still a subject that I'll click on it just to see what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Um, uh,
yeah,
can you talk us through what this experience is
yeah.
and you know uh, the ramifications of having that experience?
Yeah, yeah, and that talk, interestingly enough. So this is the other event, obviously, that
Mm,
shaped my going down this path and finding out what's real and what's not
mm,
in life in general. But this is only something I'm recently sort of talking about. And that talk that you saw was kind of nerve-wracking because, it's one thing to go on stage and perform an act or a routine or something you've created with your mind, but to go on and talk about something that's very vulnerable, particularly about something that has such a massive stigma surrounding it for decades,
mm.
is it yeah, that was the most nervous I've felt being on stage in a long, long, long time.
Which means you were present as well, doesn't it?
Very, very much so. And
Yeah.
I mean that audience was also the demographic that would have been part of the drive or the push for that stigma to be so strong. So they
Right.
would have been the really judgy ones.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a baptism of fire. Not only that, it was April the 1st that I had to give this talk. So awesome. It was
Like, did you book the gig and then kind of clock what it was, or did you know immediately?
It was a storytelling event. It's a great event in Brookvale, where
Yeah.
they have storytellers. And a friend of mine who's a magician, he's known this story for quite some time with me, and he said, "You've got to tell this story." And storytelling obviously is a big part of what we do, but I'd never paid it enough attention as I should have.
Mm,
And talking about something that's as taboo as that, and without being cryptic anymore, it's about witnessing UFOs, basically
mm,
UAP, whatever they're called. Um, uh, uh, yeah, it's particularly if you're in an industry that does have sort of illusion, or you do have to engage in sort of public promotion. I've always been particularly hesitant to talk about these stories or this story.
mm,
And yeah, with all the momentum of it in the world right now, it seemed like the right thing to do. And with my mate saying, "Hey, you need to talk about this story," and I thought, you know what, this is a great chance to engage in storytelling. And so I went up and spoke about this. And you're talking about the podcast sort of setup. That was during lockdown.
mm,
And so both of these experiences or events, oddly enough, my mum was there for both of these.
mm.
And the second occurrence hadn't happened yet. It happened a very short time after recording the first one. Now,
Right.
this recording wasn't or isn't public. It's I put it on YouTube to keep it there, but it's unlisted, so you can't
Oh,
access it
right.
without a link.
Right.
And that was essentially at the time COVID was happening. My mum had been going through cancer treatment,
Hmm.
and we didn't know which way that was going to go. And we wanted to, I guess, record our recount of that first event in case anything happened, because it's a lot more powerful. And when one person tells you a story that they've seen something, that's one thing. But if you've got multiple witnesses, and
Mm.
particularly if you see my mum, she's just so honest. And
Yeah.
yeah, she's not a fool or anything along those lines. And there were other witnesses as well. So we just wanted to, just for our family, kind of keep that sort of
Yeah.
memory as told by both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was the first one. I was about 6 years old, and that was. I mean, they're both wildly crazy, and and you're going to get people that eye roll because the stigma is still so prevalent.
Mm.
You've got, Congress coming out, top military in the States, and it's not just America. You've got Brazil, you've got all these, the Middle East, China, Russia, Australia. There's like
Mm.
mass sightings here. To see all of that and then suggest that it's impossible, I don't know, is like you're a result of this psychological influence
Mm.
if you think that. Like
Yeah.
it's not impossible. We were talking, there's the more suns out there than there are grains of sand on the earth. So
Mm.
surely in all of those solar systems, and yes, I get that the distance is perceivably an issue for us at our current knowledge and stage, but it's ignorant to suggest that there aren't other possibilities or technologies. And we seem to be reaching that now in some ways, or at least understandings of.
Mm.
So it was incredibly interesting, and they were both two craft each time. Well, one craft each time, but two craft in total. And I didn't see who or what was piloting these things, but the craft were there.
Yeah.
And that from that point on, at 6 years old, I had one less question than most other people, but so many more. And
Mm.
when you don't ask the question, are they real or not, because you've seen them, your mind's operating from a different sort of space. And that's where
Mm.
it was like, okay, so is hypnosis real? Yes, it is.
Mm.
Is this real? No, I don't think so. But I
Mm.
won't go into those areas because I don't want to, you know, talk people out of their mediums because they get
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
hate
Yeah.
from people that really want to believe in mediums.
Yeah.
And maybe they are. Maybe there's a medium that I've not met that can do those things. But for
Mm.
me, what I'm seeing, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not overwhelmingly convinced that that's the thing. But then,
Yeah.
you've also got all these reports coming out from the CIA declassified. And is this a psyop? I don't know. But they're claiming that remote viewing is possible. So
Mm. Yeah.
we
The
live in a world where
those
anything you can imagine is now possible.
Yeah, the MK Ultra tests back in the what was that, the 50s, and all
Yeah.
of that stuff is pretty
Wild.
fascinating, and
Wild.
also while the contrast of making big machines that do terrible things, and then over in this room we've got people going, I reckon I can see into the minds of someone in Russia. Like, it's the contrast that I think is what makes it
Yeah.
such an appealing subject. So when you were 6 years old, what exactly happened?
So I've always been a little bit nocturnal. Like
Mm.
I like to stay up late. I find creatives are, at least
Mm.
for me, that's when I create routines or comedy or things along those lines. And I had been sent to bed, and we lived in a place called Dural, which is in the northwest of Sydney,
Mhm.
and it was on acreage and this big window facing the back paddock, which was paddocks and then bushland behind that. And then and it was a disc. This thing came at a low level, which would have been, I don't know, maybe two gum trees tall, if that's a unit of measurement.
Yeah.
It's like two blue whales, but that's what it was. And it was coming slowly towards the house, like really slowly.
Yeah.
And like it felt like it was coming towards my window, but that's where the house was. But I could
Mm.
see this thing just getting bigger and bigger, and I'm laying in bed. And so I went out and leant over the rail to my mum, who was downstairs. My dad was out business meetings, and I said, "Mum, there's a spaceship outside."
Yeah.
And she's just, well, like any parent would, she's just going, go back to bed, Monty, go back to bed. So I went in there, and there's an interesting part of this I'll mention in a moment, but I went back there and I recall sort of like standing there for a bit and seeing this thing out there, and then going back out to mum and saying it again. And, eventually when she started hearing the noise from this thing, because this one had noise, then she came up to have a look, and then she could see it. It was right there. Like
Mm.
it was massive. And she panicked, and she took me and hid me behind the couch, which is I always
Yeah.
find
Right.
amusing. Like, but
Yeah.
I found it amusing until that talk, because I'd always say, because aliens aren't going to look behind couches. But in writing that talk, I really sort of could experience it from her perspective, and it would have been terrifying. Like
Oh,
you could,
yeah.
you're a mother at home with a baby girl and your son, and there's a UFO hovering over your home.
Yeah.
Your husband's out, you're on acreage. Like it would have been, because as I said in that talk, the hardest thing that I can imagine, like she took me and hid behind the couch downstairs, but she had to then go back up and get my sister, who was a
Yeah.
baby, from the cot. So she's going
Yeah.
back up into this darkness to get my sister, and yeah, she brought it back down. We sort of kind of hid there. There's a little bit of shaking in the house, and then it was there for a while, and it made this sound that sounded like night work machinery. You know, how it's like sort of mechanical
Oh,
sound, and
yeah.
that you hear
Yeah.
the metal
Yeah.
screeching. It was that, and it sounded like it was scraping on the roof of the house,
Right. Right.
and it
Yeah.
was there for a while, and then it started. You could hear it start to move off, and
Yeah.
then it was gone.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was. I mean, that's putting that experience in a very tightly condensed sort of thing. The interesting thing to me that I mentioned I'd go back to is we were doing a sort of, again, we've only sort of just started talking about this. That public talk was the first thing, and there was an interview that we did recently, and mum mum was telling the story, and she was saying that I'd gone back in for 10 or 15 minutes and came out again, and then I'd come out three times. Now, I don't know whether there's I was six, so and there's something really fascinating going on. So did that seem longer, or was I in there for 10? Like what? Seems like a long time to be looking at something. So I sort of asked her about that, and she said, yeah, well, she thought it was longer, but then again, you're going to have a bit of time distortion, aren't you? With something
Mm.
like that going on, it's going to feel like a long time. So I don't know if there's lost time or what, but I don't think so. But this thing was the classic disc shape. It had one row of flashing colored lights going around it.
Mm.
And yeah, that was the noise that it made. And she said to me, like, very wisely, like I was super excited. There was a spaceship over the house.
Mm.
But she's very wise. She was like, don't mention this at school tomorrow.
Mm.
Because again, back then you're going to be the kooks of the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
There was always the rednecks and hippies that saw this sort of thing, and that was the idea. They promoted those people and not the countless others, like in Westall in Victoria or 1994 on the Central Coast where these
Yeah.
mass sightings happened. But she said that, and so I didn't. Holding a secret like that all day felt like forever. But after school, a friend of mine in my class, um, our mums always chatted, but her mum brought up that she said she'd seen something the night before and is absolutely terrified by this.
Mm.
And mum said, wait, what did it look like? And she said it was the exact same thing. And she would have been in the path of where this thing was, flying out towards, which, not to say where it was going, but it was certainly heading out in the direction of like the Windsor area. And there's, I don't know, there's military bases out there. I don't know if they have anything to do with it or whether it's just the direction it was going.
Mm.
But that was that incident. And then we just sort of, it was always something that we shared, we talk about, but not, only to each other,
Mm.
because anyone you try to tell just looks at you like you got two heads, and no one, as much it seems too fantastical to
But
believe.
I reckon sometimes even the flip side can be someone can be too into it in a way that is,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we've met people who are too into comedy. You can have the same thing. It's just like,
Absolutely.
oh God, this is a bit too full on. I've got my experience, and now you're taking it in areas that I just emotionally don't go.
Yeah, or
So
a lot of people that want to see one that they're looking at things that can
yeah,
be explained,
yeah,
and not even considering that first and jumping to the idea that it's UFO, and things like Venus, which is
mm,
super bright at a particular time of night, or a lot of them come after looking at photos and think there's an orb, but it's if you know basics about photography, it's lens flare and
yeah,
or satellites. There's so many
yeah,
things now that people are confusing, and this is what I say, and I think I said to you, I think in order to be open-minded, you've got to be open to the idea that there's a lot of bullshit out there.
yeah,
Otherwise, you're not open-minded. You're narrow-minded that
yeah,
this everything is real.
yeah. You can't be
Yeah,
taking any one lane is incorrect for something like this. But
absolutely.
it's interesting when you look into these things. Ross Coulthardt's book, In Plain Sight,
Mhm.
is a fascinating read from a respected journalist, and there are myriad reports of
Mm.
groups of people uh, throughout the decades that have been reporting these things, like down in Victoria, just in suburban Victoria.
Yeah,
I think is there a military base out near Broome? I think it is in Western Australia, something like that. They've seen some strange things. It's 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 fascinating that uh, people are quick to dismiss,
Mhm.
but then also it does feel like there is misinformation as well, and deliberately fed out there. And
Yeah.
it makes, I'm very much like Fox Mulder. I do want to believe, but you're right. You have to kind of have your bullshit detector on so you can
Yeah.
not get caught up in the stuff that is quite clearly uh, fantasy.
Yeah. And you get protective of it too. Like
Mm.
I'm protected because it's a real experience. If people are coming out and saying, "Oh, this is a UFO," and it's lens flare, it's like, and then they'll get upset at you because
Mm.
there's a group online that I and I've not been very time rich lately to help these two guys that manage this 60,000 strong page.
Oh, wow.
You get people on there and you're trying to sort of say, well, if you look at this, this, and this is what it is. And they get
Mm.
so upset
Mm.
because of that. But it's like if this doesn't get stopped and questioned here, you're going to go out with this in the real world, then we all look stupid.
Yes, yeah, yeah. You're reflecting poorly on us,
Yeah,
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 like even
yeah.
Brian Cox recently, I saw him talking about the Atlas comet, and there's
Right.
so much misinformation about that. And even he
Okay.
seemed, it's a comet. It's actually doing all the things that a comet does. So
It's commenting.
yeah, it's cometed through. It's cometed on its way. That's all it is. And oh yeah, but when you apply this science that I've created, it does seem
Yeah.
like a propulsion unit. And you go, thanks, mate.
But then, yeah, I mean, that's the disinformation so easy, isn't it? Let's say you've
Mm.
got 10 events and one of those events is deliberately set up so that all of those people will jump on it and then it's proven not to be. And by default, it all looks ridiculous,
It
even
all,
if the
yeah,
other nine things are, there's evidence of.
yeah. Well, and we're seeing this just in the way politics is played now.
Absolutely.
We've there's literally a an insane man in the White House, but he does so many insane things a day
Yeah.
that he can just get other things done because you're so busy being bamboozled by this or being, you know,
Yeah.
having your focus taken away on that. Oh, they've done that. Oh, okay, well, that's to be expected. He's a megalomaniac,
The pettiness is wild. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
imagine you didn't get an award at a comedy festival and then you think, right, that's it. I'm sending a military in out of spite. And did you read that letter today?
I did read the letter
Oh,
to what
to
was
Denmark, was it?
yeah, unreal. Like, but there's no sense of embarrassment.
No,
Do you know
there's
what I
no
mean?
shame.
Like, there's no
No shame.
sense of like that's the thing that takes me by surprise with a lot of people when they have a reaction.
Mm.
It's like, aren't you mortified that that's how you reacted? And the answer to that question is no.
Not in the slightest.
That's why they're doing it and still doing it. Like
Yeah.
I still feel mortified about things that I did when I was a kid. And I go,
Yeah.
oh God,
Oh, yeah.
you were
Yeah.
7, mate. You should have been better than that.
Hmm.
So you experienced I wish that was a joke. You experienced this first sighting, but
Yeah.
and that was already fascinating. But then you had a second sighting, and
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
the bit that bowls me over.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't think I would. I thought I was just super, well, I was super, super lucky to see it the first time. The second time was, again, so I mentioned that mum had been sick. She'd gone
Mm,
through cancer treatment. And so I was living up on the Central Coast at the time. I'm back in Sydney now, but on the Central Coast, there's an area actually, it's a bit of a hotspot as well, right at sort of Brisbane water area there.
mhm.
And
Why is that? Why do you think it's a hot spot?
I don't know, but it's
Right.
in 1994 there was a mass sighting there that there's, footage of online where they're interviewing people that saw that, and everyone from the police there to the general public, all are talking about seeing this thing, and it
Mm,
was apparently interacting with the water there.
yeah,
But I
right.
don't know that you get a lot of reports from now around that area, but this was around that area, and I had mum living in a sort of a one bedroom house out the back of where I was living because we didn't know how bad COVID was or if it was bad, but she had no immunity because of the treatment. And
Yeah, of
so a
course.
flu could have bowled her
Taking
over,
her
let
out.
alone
Yeah.
something like that. So she was there and I was still working emergency as a fireman as well in the meantime, but obviously there were no shows there. And that was a bit worrying going to and from that sort of line of work. But if there was several days there that I had off, I could sort of socially distance but interact with her. So we would sit when we'd catch up, sort of distance, but out under the stars. Because once you've seen something like that, you
Mm.
spend a lot more time looking up, a lot more time watching the stars. You do.
Yeah.
You're just so much more consciously aware of that. And that's what we would do throughout those lockdowns there. And that's what was happening this one particular evening. And that's when the second one, yeah, came along. And one of my mates, when in telling this story to him, yeah, he was like, well, he wasn't a believer that these things are real at the time. He said, well, how come you've seen two and I haven't seen any? And I said,
Mm.
well, how many nights do you spend outside watching the stars? I was doing this 5 nights a week around COVID time if it wasn't raining.
Mm.
They're not going to walk in front of between you and the TV and wave at you.
Mm.
Whoever's piloting, I'm not suggesting they're little green men. They could very well be. It could be advanced technology from Earth. I
Mm.
don't know who or what was piloting it. I always made that clear, but
Mm.
they're not going to park in your backyard and come and knock on your door. Well, maybe they will, but most cases they don't. But
Yeah.
that's why I've had a much better chance of seeing them because I spent a lot more time watching the skies.
Yeah.
But this one was so different to the first one, so different. This one was dead silent. And this, if ever there's a story that initially sounds even more crazy than the first, it's this one. We were out in the backyard there, and I was standing up at the time, and it came from the north. And this thing was this massive sort of boomerang shape. As I say, it made no noise. And when it moved, it sort of, I say that it glided like an air hockey puck does, with just, that absolute no friction.
Yep.
It had that sort of glide about it. And it was coming and sort of slowed as it sort of went over. And we were looking at it. And then as it went past, it just shot off. But as it came down, sorry about the mic, as it came down to this sort of area, I didn't
Mm.
want to influence mum and what she was seeing. So I
Mm.
just said, do you see that? And she said, the giant boomerang UFO. Yes, yeah, I do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a relief, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
oh,
just like, what?
absolutely.
You go, oh
Absolutely.
dear. Yeah.
Yeah, but that one was so interesting. It had a total different feel to it. My first words after that, after it moved on, were, fuck, I hope that's not China. Because if that
Right.
is some earthly technology,
Yeah.
I certainly hope it's us or our allies that have that.
Right. Yeah.
No.
By the way,
So
who are our allies at the
I
moment?
don't know anymore. At that point, I
New
thought I
Zealand.
knew.
I hope it's
Yeah,
New Zealand.
exactly. New Zealand.
I like New
Absolutely.
Zealand. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and in a weird way, silent is it's a completely different level of terrifying.
Well, it's not only that, and this is the wildest part of it. It was mostly transparent. It was like translucent.
Oh,
Which the next question, well, how did you see it? Because translucent isn't invisible. You could
no.
see it. You could kind of see through, and this technology exists. If
Mm,
you go online and look at sort of stealth cloaking technology that we have, it exists.
mm,
So why wouldn't it exist there? But the interesting thing was that if it makes no noise, it's got no wind disturbance or anything like that, and it's very difficult to see. Well, that's something that doesn't want to be seen.
mm.
Whereas the first one didn't mind; it was just out in the open and it was
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
But what are you hiding? Are you hiding just the tech? Is it has some kind of I don't know. There's only limited answers for why you would remain cloaked and not want to be seen by
Yeah,
humans.
yeah. What do
Mm,
you so two kind of two parts to this question. What and I know you don't know, so it's not necessarily you might not actually have an answer for this, but on
mm.
the one hand, what
Yeah.
what does your gut tell you that it is? And by the way, like I'm not asking you that's not a commitment
Mm, mm.
question. It's just even your gut might change over time. But at this moment, what do you think it might be? And but on the flip side,
Mm.
what's the idea that it could be that excites you the most, or is the most interesting to you?
Oh, this is a thought that I have regularly.
Yeah,
What could it be? What is it?
yeah,
Who or what was that? There are so many possibilities, and they're ever changing. And also, what is the intent behind it? So it's almost like a branching out system, like a wireframe, where it's okay. Is it human? Yes, no. Then it means this or this. Then it's
yeah,
recon. It's advanced weapons. Was this originally human made? If it was humans, yes or no, or is it reverse engineered? Then you've got the other thing. Is this some sort of ET or they're saying now, interdimensional, where that means.
Mm,
And then in that case, what is the purpose? Why isn't contact publicly known? And what's the intent? Yeah.
mm,
And those are some really interesting areas. So you ultimately, I don't know, and I have to take a sort of scientific and realistic approach. I don't know who or what was piloting those things, but there's sort of logic if I'm looking at how humanity is going. We've already touched on this with certain leaders, if not mostly all leaders, and I don't know. I just imagine or feel that if 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 we were sort of to evolve, or a species was to evolve to the point of reaching the stars, then and then this has been purported by other people too, but this is sort of a theory I've had for a long time. Then they can become a threat. Yeah,
mm,
look at what we do. We go places, we conquer, we kill,
mm,
we plunder, we take what we want, and we don't treat the inhabitants very nicely. And that's kind of a sort of a virus mentality. I just
mm,
don't think that as a species we've evolved enough to be
mm,
getting out of stuff. We need to look after our homes a bit more first and our evolve. We're just a species that are children.
mm.
We don't really evolve into not at this stage anyway. I don't know. Is this technology that we have reverse engineered and now we've sort of rocketed up in advancements that hasn't had the same level of time for our evolution as a
Mm,
species, and then now we're becoming dangerous? Are they supposed to be watching that, or is it something that's far more sinister?
mm.
I
It
don't I don't know.
it does feel like if we discovered alien life in some form, the first question would be, should we crumb it or saute it? Don't you think?
Absolutely. Look what happens to octopuses,
Yeah.
octopi. It didn't work out
Yeah,
that well for
yeah,
them.
yeah. It's like yeah, that is the disappointing aspect of it. There's
Yeah.
there's the theories that like there's scientific theories like recently in New Scientist, it's been proposed that our universe might be in a black hole, which would explain the disconnect with the Hubble tension not making any sense with the way the universe is slowly accelerating because we're going down. There's also a sense that the Milky Way might be in the middle of a really bizarre void, and that there are other parts of the universe that are so densely populated, and the Milky Way is somehow off on its own little, vacuum.
You're quite
Uh,
a neighborhood.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Maybe.
I remember do you remember when the Hadron Collider was being built and they kept having all these weird accidents? And I remember there was the hypothesis that it was a bad idea for the Hadron Collider to be built. So there were
Mm.
people from the future coming back and doing things to create these little weird,
Wow.
uh, issues so they couldn't get that up and running. Like it's all high-minded and it's all borderline science fiction, but it is also fascinating that you do seem to have some really smart people
Mm.
and accomplished people who are more and more willing to engage with these ideas.
Yeah, I mean the people from the future theory is an interesting one too. You get what one thing I find very fascinating, and again, these are just thoughts that enter your mind. I'm not necessarily saying I believe any of these
Hmm,
or whatever, but when you spend a lot of time pondering, you sort of think, okay, well, I wonder if that's the case. So the Great Pyramid, one of the greatest mysteries that we have,
hmm,
it's got so many features that are perfectly, north, south, south, east, west, perfectly aligned. The ratio compared to the planet
yeah,
is spot on. There's just so many things. But the one thing that a lot of people were running with in the first place was that I think it's on the longitude, the number of the longitude perfectly matches the number of the speed of light. And then
hmm,
the obvious argument to counter that is, well, no, that doesn't make sense because the speed of light is measured in the metric system. And
hmm,
therefore, how would some being from another solar system know our metric system and then before it was invented and then build that into the pyramid? But then you think, well, if you were from the future, what a great indicator or sign that, along with all these other details and facts that you're aligning with to show that there's an advanced knowledge of the circumference of the Earth and all that sort of thing, to put that in there to suggest,
Mm,
hey, and we also know that this number is exactly the speed of light, and this is how you know it's from the future. Who knows? This is
mm.
late night conversation right here. But
Yeah. Well, people discard that maths is a universal language, and it kind of freaks scientists out philosophically because if maths is the language of the universe, it kind of means that everything it brings into question things like free will and being able to move through it with a mind of your own. But anyway, it's all fascinating. Like,
mind bending.
yeah, yeah.
We're
Um,
edging on the simulation theory now.
well, I think they've proven that mathematically that can't exist.
Really?
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
love to
yeah,
read this. I'd love to see that.
mate. New Scientist is one of those very expensive subscriptions that every time it's coming up, I'm like, can I really justify this? Hang on, what's this article? Oh, all right. You got me for another 6 months. So, but yeah. Hey, I have kept you way longer than I had planned on.
Okay.
So this is going to go out towards the end of January. What do you have coming up in the next couple of months?
As in gigs
Yeah.
or life in general.
Well, yeah, you can share what you want to
I'll be
share.
going to the shops on Thursday.
Yeah. At 2
I've
2 to
got
3 p.m. if you want to have a chat about this.
I've got some I've got a couple of keynote speakings coming up in the next month, as well as a couple of corporate events. That's most of where my show work is these days, other than cruises, which I caught your cruise stories when you were talking to Will the other day.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Comedians have it rough, by the way. Quick question on the one that you didn't feel great about. Were you doing the opening and the closing slot for the cruise by any chance?
Uh, so it was the first night.
Yeah, it's always a rough
Yeah,
night, like people are
yeah.
sort of finding themselves, but yeah. Anyway, back to that. No, and the other thing, yeah, I've got this spot on a TV show that's come out on Prime Video
Oh,
that was
great.
filmed like 2 years ago in New York. I didn't know it was coming out. I didn't know that Prime had picked it up or anything. I got an email last week saying, "Oh, hey, it's going to be coming out this weekend on Prime Video." So I thought, all
Oh,
right.
great,
But I
great.
haven't seen it either. Well, I hadn't seen it then. I thought, oh gosh, I hope this is all right, because it was one of those things where you're sort of flustered
Yeah,
and yeah, going all the way to New York, what we're talking about with sleep, and you're trying to activate your brain and keep it at its maximum potential for something like that. So it was a bit of fun. Like there was mind reads there, using skills to make it look like mind read,
mm,
and but also a fair bit of audience work that was happening as that was occurring. But it was awesome, and so it's kind of just been a pleasant little surprise. So that's out. That came out on Prime on the weekend in the US, but it's not released here yet. I think it's going to be free to air in April. But yeah, so
yeah.
that's
Check
that's
that
kind
out.
of what's happening this week. That
Yeah.
that's sort of
And where's the best place to find you? What's your website? Are you on the socials?
I am on the socials. I literally just changed it. Actually, I'm pretty sure it is. I had to change the name of it because it wasn't aligned. Mind Guy Views. So Mind
Yep.
Guy Views on Instagram.
Yep.
Currently, it's mentalistphoenix.com.au is the typical website that clients would go to look. But I'm going to relaunch it and have a lot more. Yeah, that's stick around, follow those. You'll find me.
Yeah, we'll find you then. Mate, it's been great catching up with you again. We have literally in one podcast gone from mentalism to X-Men to UFOs, and this is one of the more delicious podcasts I've recorded. So thank you for that. And absolutely, it will not be another 23 years before we catch up again.
I look forward to it. And again, thanks for your guidance 23 years ago. You said some very wise things that have helped along the way.
Oh, okay. Well, that is, you know what? I feel nothing but relief hearing that. So thanks, mate.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
There you go. What a fascinating story. And for uh, Phoenix to have had that happen not once but twice, and having his mother there as well is just a unique story. And I just wanted something a little bit different for you to break up, the TV, movie, all of that kind of talk. And yeah, what an interesting one. So. keep an eye out for those books. Some of you probably don't believe this kind of stuff. I live in, I'm very much Fox Mulder. As I've said before, I want to believe. And there's all sorts of crazy ideas out there. Just even normal science, I find, can be quite fascinating, and there's a level of agoraphobia that sometimes comes with it. Um, so yeah, I just thought that was great, and really appreciate him not only coming on and talking about it, but it's hard to talk about these things because you do have people push back against stuff, and I appreciate that he's willing to not only come and talk to me about it, but also understands that my audience is great, and at the very least, it's an interesting yarn. So, and what a fascinating career as well. If you want to find out more about Phoenix, head to his website, Mentalist Phoenix, all one word, mentalistphoenix.com.au, and you can get in contact with him there. You might even want to book him for something. So go and check out his site. Yes, so there you go. As I was saying earlier, if you'd like to sign up for the newsletter, the next newsletter will be coming out next Tuesday, actually, on the 10th. So that will be coming out fortnightly. So keep an eye out for that. Head over to my site, justinhamilton.com.au, and you can sign up on the front page. Yeah, heaps of things coming up, lots of little projects that are still a little bit in flux, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to share them with you in the next couple of weeks. It's always hard to tell with this stuff. You're out there, you're working, you're pitching, you're putting things together. People say they'll get right back to you. 2 weeks pass. It's, pretty crazy, to be honest. So hopefully we'll have some stuff to announce soon. Next week, Will Anderson will be back for the 8 a.m. catch-up, and Steve Malk will be back, and we'll be talking TV, and we will be covering some stuff that's coming up. We'll return to what's been happening in the pit so far, and I have something interesting to throw his way. And you know what? We better get Dave Anthony back, because lots been going on, hasn't it? Yeah, I'll get in touch with Dave, and hopefully we can get him back on the podcast ASAP. So keep an eye out for all of them. And I actually have a screenwriter coming up soon. I'm going to be recording with him in about 2 weeks, and we're going to be discussing the movie Eyes Wide Shut. So if you haven't seen that film before, or if you've only seen it once, or you didn't even particularly like it, and you would like to be a part of this conversation, get on board now. Actually, if you are a fan of that movie and you have some theories, why don't you get in touch with me? You can do so via my website, and send me your theories, and maybe I'll share them, and we'll have a discussion. But that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks as well. So you've got some time. I'll send you a reminder for that, or mention it as a reminder in the next couple of weeks. As always, thank you to you for being someone who engages with this podcast, with me, and with all of my guests. And I look forward to catching up with you again soon. Have a great weekend, and until then.